I've heard that occasionally you can sense when a permanent change is about to occur in your life. They give it a dramatic tone, as if there were a cosmic upheaval or some major discovery. However, there wasn't thunder or lightning for me. My life was rocked by my wife's 7 words as she nervously stirred her coffee across from me at breakfast. Nick, we need to talk tonight. That was it, 7 words. For the remainder of the day, those 7 words weighed heavily on my stomach. I'm 42-year-old Nick Everett, baseball coach and biology teacher at a high school. Lauren, my 41-year-old wife, is a math teacher at another school. 20 years have passed since our marriage. One of our sons, DJ, is currently a baseball player at Austin. I believed that we were content. We seemed solid to me. I was a complete moron. I tried to be natural when I picked up my keys and stood by the door that morning. But the words replayed themselves in my mind like a horrible tune. We need to talk tonight. There was a problem. Normally, Lauren wasn't like this. She was straightforward and always spoke her opinions. However, this was not like the others. I tried to sound informal as I said, "Can we talk now? I can be late if it's important." She paused, for a moment only. Then she gave a stiff, forced smile. "No, it can wait until tonight. I want us to have plenty of time." My stomach turned over. I gave her a cheek kiss and went off to work, acting as if nothing was wrong. It wasn't. I had trouble concentrating all day. I mentally went over each situation. Had I made a mistake? Was she being neglected by me, or was she being unfaithful? No. I would have observed. Correct? I made an effort to ignore the thought, but it persisted. I felt like I was stepping into a trap by the time I arrived home. The smell caught my attention right away. Steak fried with chicken. Potato mashed gravy. My favorite. Abruptly, I realized. Only when Lauren had bad news did she prepare my favorite dinner. I pretended not to see the constriction in her shoulders as I planted a peck on her cheek. I remarked, "Smells great." As she laid the table, she grinned, but her hands were shaking. I knew now that this was bad. Dinner was really weird. She inquired about my day. I inquired about hers. We discussed everything but what she truly wanted to say, including DJ and job. She was taking her time. I cooperated. When we were done washing the dishes, she finally took my hand, walked me over to the couch, and sat down next to me. Her voice trembled as she pinched my fingers. "Nick, I need you to know that I love you more than anything in this world." I felt sick to my stomach, but it was there. However, I tightened my jaw. "Just say it, Lauren." She took a deep breath. "I need some space." I blinked. "What?" She looked down and sighed. "I feel like I'm suffocating. I need time to clear my head. I want to move out for a little while just to recharge." In my ears, my heartbeat screamed, "Are you asking for a separation?" Her eyes widened. "No!" "No, Nick, it's not like that. I'm not leaving you. I just need time for me." Bullshit. I sensed it. I examined her face, searching for any holes in her narrative. She felt anxious. She appeared to be guilty. My voice was icy as I said, "Are you cheating on me?" She shook her head too rapidly and gasped. "What?" "No. Nick, I have never been unfaithful to you. I wished to trust her. God, I wanted to think she was real. My intuition, however, warned me otherwise." I said, "Where are you planning to stay?" She paused. And I knew right then. Clara's house. It made my blood boil. "Clara?" I laughed sharply and without amusement. "The biggest homewrecker in town? Is that Clara?" Lauren tensed. "She's my friend Nick. She's been really supportive." I sneered. "Of course she has." Clara was an obvious warning sign. She was known for something. She was referred to as birthday cake by some of my school's unmarried coaches since everyone got a piece. I gave my wife a scowl. "This isn't about space, is it?" Lauren averted her gaze. She didn't dispute it, and I only needed to know that. I let out a breath and wiped my cheeks. "Fine." She blinked. "Fine?" I nodded in a chilly tone. "You want space? Take it. But be warned if I find out you so much as kiss another man, our marriage is over." Her breath caught. "Nick, I mean it." I interrupted her. "One mistake, and we're done." She took a deep breath. Then she got to her feet carefully. She gave me a cheek kiss. In a whisper, I love you. Then she left through the door. I sat looking at the void she left behind for a long time. In my heart, I knew she wouldn't return, not as my spouse. And she was in for another surprise if she thought I was just going to sit about like an idiot, waiting for her to get weary of space. I didn't get any sleep that evening. I kept seeing her laughing, touching, and kissing someone else. I made up my mind by dawn. I gave my lawyer a call. I then made a private investigator's call. And suddenly the game was on. Have you ever had a deep feeling that something is amiss but you pray it's just paranoia? I was that person. Lauren was someone I wanted to believe. I wanted to think that she was simply bewildered and that perhaps she needed some time to think things out. But in the back of your mind, I was aware. She was telling lies. I called twice the morning after she left. To my lawyer first. Are you sure you want to move this fast, Nick? He asked calmly. You don't even have proof yet. I tightened my jaw. I don't need proof to prepare. Draft the papers. Just in case. With a groan, he concurred. The second call? Whitaker Ben, private detective. Former police officer. If you want to catch someone lying through their teeth, you hire this guy. So let me guess. Ben began as soon as I gave him the details of my predicament. Wife suddenly needs spaces, but she's staying at a very convenient location? I laughed resentfully. That about sums it up. Ben let out a breath. All right, here's how this goes. I'll tail her, track her phone if I can, and pull some records. If she's screwing around, I'll find out. I took a deep breath. And if she's not? He laughed. Then you owe her an apology, buddy. I had no intention of expressing regret. It was quiet for the first several days. Lauren continued to text me. Good morning. I hope your day is going well. I'm considering you. You are missed. I cooperated. I responded in a succinct, impartial, and objective manner because I was aware that I would soon have my response. Then, she would be sorry for everything. Ben called 3 days later. You home? He said in a hurried voice. Yeah. Good. I'm outside. Open up. I felt sick to my stomach. Ben only ever met clients face to face when they were serious. His expression told me all I needed to know when I opened the door. He gave me an envelope made of manila. You might want to sit down for this. I didn't. There in the entryway, I tore it open. And what did I observe? Something inside of me was broken. Lauren, my 20-year-old wife, the parking lot of a hotel, with a different man. Not just any man. Greg Patterson, fuck you. My assistant coach. My companion. The images gave me the impression that my heart had been squeezed till it broke by someone reaching inside my chest. Lauren was standing outside the motel, brushing her hair behind her ear while giggling. Greg put a hand on her hip and took a step closer. They were sharing a kiss, them entering together. A timestamp. 11:43 p.m. Earlier that evening, she had sent me an SMS going to bed early. Love you. I nearly passed out from the intensity of the anger. Ben let out a breath. I'm sorry, man. I didn't respond. My breathing was shallow, and my hands were trembling. Ben put his hand on my shoulder and clapped. You need anything else? I slowly nodded while holding on to the doorframe until my knuckles were white. Yeah, I whispered. I need to burn my marriage to the fucking ground. I refrained from confronting Lauren immediately. I had a plan, because she was completely mistaken if she believed she would leave this clean. Meeting with my lawyer was the first thing I did. As I pushed the envelope over the desk, I informed him, she's going to be taken by surprise. I want the upper hand. He nodded as he browsed through the photos. You'll get it. With this evidence? You won't owe her a damn thing. Excellent. What comes next? Ensuring that Lauren's identity was clear to all. DJ was my first. I've never had a more difficult talk. I gave him the same envelope as we sat on a park bench close to his campus. He glanced through the pictures with trembling hands. His face hardened as he let out a sharp exhale. In a whisper, fucking hell, he said. I said nothing. Then all of a sudden he laughed, icily, without amusement. You know what's funny? I arched an eyebrow. His eyes were flaming as he glanced up at me. She gave me a whole lecture on loyalty before I left for school. I tightened my jaw. Yeah, well, she's full of shit. DJ let out a breath and wiped his face. So what now? I looked him in the eye. Now? I said steadily. Now, I make sure she regrets it. A whole week passed before I finally took action. Lauren was still unaware that I knew. She came over to get a few things and texted me as if we were still together, acting as though she was just figuring things out. She was so incredibly conceited. I cooperated. For what better retaliation? It is served chilled. Then came the day of the game. Around 7:00 p.m., Lauren arrived at the residence. She placed her purse on the counter as she entered, casual as ever. "Hey babe, how's your week been?" I grinned. "Oh, busy." She tilted her head and rested against the counter. "You seem different." I laughed. "I guess you could say I've had some clarity." She squinted a little. "Clarity?" I took my phone out of my pocket and gave the screen a quick touch. Behind us, the TV came on. On the large screen, there, it was her, outside the hotel. I'm laughing. I'm kissing Greg. Lauren became pale. She opened and closed her mouth, but nothing came out. I folded my arms. "Go ahead, Lauren. Tell me again how you needed space." Her hands shaking, she staggered back as if struck. "Nick, I can explain." I arched an eyebrow. "Oh, I bet you can." I raised a hand as she attempted to approach me. "Don't! You don't get to touch me!" Her eyes filled with tears. "It was a mistake," I chuckled. A bitter, gloomy sound. "A mistake?" "Lauren, a mistake is burning dinner. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. This was a fucking choice." She put her hands over her mouth and cried, and I had no sympathy for her for the first time in 20 years. No affection, no pity, just the harsh, brutal truth. I flung a folder onto the table after grabbing it off the counter. She gazed at it, perplexed. Then she crushed her face. "Divorce documents, signed already." "Calmly, you have two options," I remarked. "Sign them right away. Accept the reasonable agreement my attorney wrote, and leave with honor. Or," I lowered my voice and took a step closer, "I can take this evidence to everyone, your job, our friends, DJ, your family." She shook her head and gasped. "Nick, please choose Lauren. Quiet." Then she grabbed up the pen, her hands shaking. She put her signature on it. She was defeated. "Have you ever seen a dam fail? It begins slowly, with a leak here and a crack there. Then everything breaks at once, and the flood cannot be stopped." After Lauren signed those divorce papers, that is what transpired. She believed she could limit the harm. I believed she could persuade me to pardon her, but after the truth was revealed, nothing remained to be saved. Lauren loses everything. Lauren attempted to call me the following morning. I let the voicemail go. Then there was another call, and yet another. I finally picked up the fifth one, merely to find out what kind of nonsense she would try to justify. "Nick," she said in a raspy whisper, "please, just talk to me." I watched the sunrise via the kitchen window while leaning against the counter. "Talk about what, Lauren?" She gave a sniff. "About us. About fixing this." The truth is, I laughed. She was still not understanding. "There is no uses anymore," I stated in a composed tone, chilly. "You ended that the second you fucked Greg." Her breath caught. "I wasn't thinking, Nick." "It was a mistake." I gave an eye roll. "Yeah? How many times did you accidentally fall on his dick?" Quiet. She made another attempt. "I miss you." I rubbed my temple and let out a breath. "No, Lauren. You miss the life I gave you. You miss being the perfect wife in the perfect marriage. But you sure as hell didn't miss me when you were screwing around behind my back." "It's unfair," she cried. "I never stopped loving you." I shook my head and tightened my jaw. "You don't get to say that." I hung up before she could plead any further and permanently blocked her number. Spreading like wildfire, the truth, it was quickly discovered by the others as well. I ensured it. In their divorce, Greg was already suffering greatly from his wife, Melissa. Lauren? Her own reputation devastated her. Word got around quickly, so I didn't even need to do much. The rumor mill in the little town operated in real time. According to our common friends, she attempted damage control, attempted to make it seem as though we were already experiencing issues. The fact that she and Greg occurred to find solace in one another. However, nobody purchased that garbage. Since I had evidence, and the moment I forwarded it to the appropriate individuals, boom. Lauren's entire life was lost. She was fired first. It seems that having sex with a married man while working as a high school teacher is not warmly received by the administration. In particular, after Greg's wife forwarded the pictures to the school board, she then lost her pals. Her calls were no longer answered by the same people who had worshipped her and told me how lucky I was to have her. Her own parents were appalled as well. DJ? He wouldn't even give her a glance. At one of his baseball games, she attempted to attend. Sitting in the stands, she pretended that nothing was wrong and that her family wasn't irreparably broken. When I saw her, I remained silent. Did not have to. For what reason did DJ leave the field following the game? He didn't even give her a look. Desperate. Her voice broke as she shouted out to him. DJ, please! He continued to walk. And when did he get to me? He gave me a hug, directly before her. I didn't look back, but I could tell she was crying without even looking. And for a long time's first time, I had no sympathy for her. Greg understands. What's up next? What about Greg? He was finished. The house, the car, and complete custody of their children were all taken by his wife. What's the best part? She revealed him. Sent the proof, the texts, and the pictures to our school board. Greg was dismissed right away. No work, no cash. Not a family. When was the last time I heard? He lived with Lauren in a dilapidated apartment and worked in some dingy warehouse on the outskirts of town. They received just what they were due. Making a fresh start, you would think I would be upset after all of that. Bitter. However, what is the reality? I was liberated. I had no one to answer to for the first time in decades. I didn't have to question whether I was sufficient. Didn't have to keep a marriage intact after years of dissolution. I was finished. And for a long time's first time? In fact, I was anticipating what would happen next. A few months later, I was enjoying a whiskey at a bar one evening when I sensed someone sitting next to me. I looked over. Jen. Although we had previously met informally, through common friends, we had never had a meaningful conversation. She grinned. So, Coach Everett, are you finally going to buy me a drink? I laughed and gestured to the bartender. Guess it's about time. And suddenly, I began to live once more. You would think that I would have some sort of closure once everything was said and done and the truth was revealed. I didn't. Not initially. Because even though Greg had lost everything, even though Lauren had been exposed, and even though I had left without feeling guilty, there was still that nagging feeling in my chest. Not sorrow, not melancholy, simply waste. I lost 20 years of my life. For what purpose? A liaison? A pathetic, cowardly man who sacrificed his family for a short-lived item? This did not teach us anything. No profound insight. The harsh reality is that sometimes the people you love the most will cause you the greatest pain. Lauren's last attempt, 3 months passed before Lauren made another attempt to get in touch. I had moved on by then. Not entirely, perhaps, but enough to feel like myself once more. Then my phone buzzed one evening, an unknown number. I nearly disregarded it, but I felt compelled to respond. So I did. And the moment her voice reached my ears, I was aware. Nick, please don't hang up. I let out a slow breath. What do you want, Lauren? She paused. I don't know where to start. I reclined in my chair and gazed up at the ceiling. Try the truth. She gave a sniff. I'm sorry, Nick, for everything. I didn't know what I was doing. I chuckled. A harsh, bitter sound. You didn't know? So what, you just tripped and fell onto Greg's dick? She winced. That's not fair, I said in a chilly tone. Shut up, Lauren. Weary, you don't get to cry. You don't get to act like you're the victim here. She said nothing. Then, just a little louder than a whisper, I miss you. I shut my eyes. No, Lauren. You miss what I gave you. The security, the comfort. You don't miss me. Her breath caught. That's not true. I exhaled and shook my head, saying, yes, it is. If you loved me, you never would have done this. You don't love me, Lauren. You love the idea of me. And now that it's gone? Now that you're sitting in some shitty apartment with a man who ruined his own life? I grinned. Now you want to talk? She cried. I was stupid, Nick. I was selfish. But I know now that I made the biggest mistake of my life. I had no hesitation at all. Yeah, I replied. You did? Then, I ended the call, permanently blocked her. With that, too? At last, I was free. The collapse of Greg's ex-wife, Melissa, and I met up at a coffee shop a few weeks later. Her appearance improved, lighter, similar to a woman who had endured hell and emerged stronger. Well, well. If it isn't the man who made my ex-husband's life a living nightmare, she said with a sly smile upon seeing me. I nodded toward her drink and laughed. Let me guess. Extra shot of espresso, so you can fuel your revenge. She smiled. Damn right. She filled me in on everything as we sat down. Greg had no money, lost his job, lost his home, was being evicted just one late rent payment away. Lauren had nowhere else to go, so she was stuck with him. What's the best part? He had also begun to cheat on her. I exhaled a long, contented breath. Karma's a bitch. Melissa lifted her cup of coffee. And she never misses. Rebuilding my life. I was no longer Nick the husband for the first time in decades. Nick the doormat wasn't me. All I was Nick. I also thought he was nice. I resumed going to the gym. I adopted new interests that I had never had time for but had always wanted to do. I set out on a journey. I even went alone to a baseball game, which I hadn't done since freshman year. And, above all, I allowed myself to feel joyful. Then I saw Jenna again one evening. She looked like she owned the place when she sipped whiskey at the bar. She smirked when she saw me gazing. You going to buy me a drink, coach? I laughed. Guess I don't have an excuse not to now. And like that, I began to live once more. The beginning again thing, not everything occurs at once. It's not a big, dramatic scene where you feel whole all of a sudden. No. Slowly, day by day, piece by piece, until you wake up one morning and realize you no longer miss the past. And I experienced precisely that. At last, Lauren tears up. I received a call from an unidentified number a month after I permanently blocked Lauren. I choose to disregard it, then another, and yet another. I finally picked it up out of pure curiosity. Nick, a woman murmured in a tentative tone. I scowled. Who is this? A pause. Then it's Clara. I straightened my posture. Clara, Lauren's closest companion, the one who urged her to abandon me, the person who filled in for her. What do you want? I simply inquired. She let out a sigh. Look, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, and I don't blame you, but it's Lauren. I said nothing. She went on. She's not doing well, Nick. She's drinking too much. She's depressed. Greg is cheating on her. I gave a little chuckle. And this is my problem because? Clara let out a breath. I just thought you should know. Why? I said, raising my voice. Why the hell would I care? Did she care when she tore my life apart? Did she care when she humiliated me? When she broke our family? She didn't respond. I grasped the phone and leaned forward. She made her bed, Clara, and now she gets to rot in it. I hung up after that. And for the very first time, I was not saddened by hearing of Lauren's pain. I wasn't upset about it. I felt absolutely nothing. Greg's lowest point, I believed that karma had reached its peak. Then Greg was taken into custody for driving under the influence. He had apparently been in a downward spiral for months, losing his work, losing his money. And now, he was no longer free. Melissa, who was laughing so hard she could not speak, called me. Oh my God, Nick. You are going to love this. I got the mugshot from her. Greg had a terrible appearance. I let out a whistle. Damn. He looks like he aged 10 years. Melissa laughed. Guess he found out the hard way that karma's got claws. I grinned. Yeah. And it sure as hell doesn't forget. Giving up, I came to a realization one evening while sitting outside and gazing up at the sky. I had lost my anger. Not at Lauren, not at Greg, not when I lost 20 years. What if it hadn't occurred? If Lauren hadn't cheated on me, my life would never have returned to me. The fact that I had been settling and breaking my back for a lady who never deserved me would have escaped my notice. I never would have developed into the stronger, happier, and more liberated version of myself. And that? It was all worth it. A fresh start. I was watching my son on the mound at DJ's baseball game a year after my divorce was finalized. He was doing well, joyful, concentrated, unstoppable. Jenna pushed on my arm next to me. You're smiling again. I gave her a startled look. Am I? She smiled. Yeah, you are. As I watched DJ deliver a flawless pitch, I let out a breath. Guess I have a lot to smile about, I muttered. Additionally, for the first time in a long, I really meant it.